Business as a Game, Rakes of Russian Business and Unexpected Solutions. Authors Sergey Abdulmanov, Dmitry Kibkalo, Dmitry Borisov. Subtitles by freebooksummary. Introduction. Book Business as a Game is a set of succinct theses and real stories that outline the business experience of the owners of the popular and successful company Mosigra. This is not the advice of theorists, but the conclusions and recommendations of practitioners who have created the largest chain of board game stores. The authors talk about their book as a set of life advice, which they themselves sometimes lacked in their work. How and with whom to start a business, how to choose the right store location, how to sign contracts, how to negotiate, in what cases perfectionism becomes the enemy, and how dangerous are shoals in work. All these questions in the book have precise and often aphoristic answers. As in any game, business has its own rules. Sometimes they change, and you have to adapt them to yourself. Chapter 1. Startup. Taxes. Thinking about tax optimization, we realize that our business is selling games, not tax evasion. That's why we always work white, but we analyze and choose the most profitable system. Investors and partners make money from the very first day. The main motivation for this is to spend your own money, not invested money. We try to avoid debts or give them back very quickly. But if one partner is an investor and the other is a manager, then distribute shares taking into account the operating payback period and the manager's take-home. If the partners are just partners and not an investor and a manager, we recommend entering the business with 50 shares. And for the first 3 years, do not find out who works more and who works less. Just try to maximize. But it is necessary to immediately determine the main person who will be in charge of making the final decision on all issues. For example, with an investment of 3 million, payback period of a year and the salary of the manager 100,000. If the manager during the year did not take his salary, he gets 40% 2 million share in the business. If he took half of the salary, then 20% 600,000. Should I start a business with a loved one, with a favorite woman? Do not advise. With a friend, you can, but talk in advance about all the controversial issues. Involve friends in business only if you really need their competence, and not because you are afraid to start alone. Assign a friend a salary based on how much it would cost to replace him as a specialist. Specifically as a specialist, not as a friend. Questions to ask at the startup. If you are alone, choose an sole proprietorship, so the business will be more mobile and understandable. Choosing between USN and OSN, simplify, and general systems of taxation, prefer simplify, and after a couple of years, if necessary, change the scheme. The simplified taxation system can be based on profit or revenue. Accordingly, look whether you have a large turnover. Our conclusion and recommendation: if you are not a sole proprietor, then choose an LLC with simplified taxation based on revenue. Accountant. The accountant should be experienced, so hire a specialist not by price, but by professionalism. An outsourced accountant is preferred. If you are in a large city, then look for an accountant in smaller cities where salaries are lower. But keep in mind, you can't save much on an accountant without damaging your business. Choose a small firm that has been on the market for a long time and work with the main people. And don't forget to find out where they live. In addition, remember, cheating chief accountant, you are lying to yourself. Do I start with Moscow? Of course, other strategies may be reasonable for your business, but we started in Moscow and then developed our business in the regions, not the other way around. There are more people, more money in the capital, and technology comes here earlier. Pleasure through money or vice versa. Our principle is that what you do should please you, not make you nervous, and then the profit will come. How do you measure success? When you set a task and choose a goal, you should also define the criteria for achieving it. If it's impossible to check whether you've reached your goal, there's little point in what you're doing. Proper financial model. To make it, you need to know exactly your income and expenses, and the information on income should be more detailed. With expenses is easier. Go through the items. Every month count the subtotal, subtracting expenses from income, adding the total of the previous month. Estimate income realistically. Think in advance about the limit to which it will be necessary to close the business. Chapter 2. Management. Competent manager. The key to a company's prosperity is a reasonable boss and effective subordinates. A good manager is fair, is a worthy example, makes decisions and is responsible for them. A good subordinate is moderately proactive. But first of all, he does what the manager says, because it is the manager who sees the big picture. Discuss any problems that arise at once. Don't hold grudges. Assign tasks to specific people, not to a group. Require confirmation of understanding of the task. Do not do the work together with subordinates. Trust, but check, which means do not leave people opportunities for mistakes and abuse. Control at different stages. Bargain. In almost any transaction, haggling is appropriate. You lose nothing by haggling. People are usually willing to concede on price. Sometimes it pays to haggle ahead of time, for example, with landlords who like to raise rents. Complain to them before they talk about the increase and ask them to lower the rent. Then they'll likely keep it the same, or maybe suddenly lower it. Contract. There's nothing obvious that can't be written into a contract. Try to prescribe all pop up in the negotiations. Do not rely on memory and honesty. Try to provide for all partners. For example, the site for parking trucks may not belong to the lessor, and with its owner must sign a separate contract with whom you may encounter in the work, and conclude a contract with them too. It is desirable to make a card of the contract. The card of the contract can include the term, amount, penalties, obligations of the counterparty and much more, which each instance will fill out. First, the contract is studied by the person who initiated it and makes his notes in the card. Then the contract is looked at by the manager, then by the general manager. If an error is noticed, return to the previous instance. Do not write your title on the business card. Then, if you are the head of the company or responsible person on this issue, in negotiations you will not be able to refer to higher authorities. You will have to refuse yourself, which may offend the interlocutor. Availability of goods. Our strategy. Additional order of goods to the store when it remains for 1 or 2 days of sales plus the term of arrival at the point. We do the same with purchases. We buy goods a couple of weeks before the delivery date and the amount. We will sell before the next purchase. Bonus. The basis for issuing a bonus. A person has done what he should do and something else. If he does what he has to do, that's the way it should be. If less, a reason to part. We promote a person in position and salary. If we see that he is regularly ready to do a little more than he is obliged to do, we try to tie the bonus to non-standard results, so that a person does not count on it, and it is always a surprise. Work with professionals. Professionals should either be hired or nurtured in your team. Hiring is more expensive, but it's effective when you need to grow dramatically in revenue. Educate yourself. It is effective in the period of stabilization and when you need to grow in profit. How to fire. Dismiss without preamble, but gently and immediately negotiating all the terms of dismissal. Fire at the moment when you realize that the person is not doing his job. Part as friends, as honestly as possible. In December, during the buying frenzy, former employees come to Mosigra stores to help. This is the consequence of a specifically honest and friendly personnel policy. When to hire. Do not plug the holes with a new person. First assess the effectiveness of the work. Do not unload employees working in a medium stress mode. People are more tired from idleness, not from work. If a person is really needed, look for someone close to your team. And do not hesitate to refuse in the second minute of the interview when you realize that the person is not yours. If you are opening your first store, first trade yourself so you will better understand how your business model works. When to praise and scold. Right away. It's more memorable that way. Praise more often and in front of everyone. It is pleasant and an additional example for others. Scold sternly and one-on-one. If you scold in front of everyone, it will be unpleasant for everyone. In addition, if you as a boss in this case is wrong, then your authority will fall. Personnel officer. Personnel officer is not outsourced, is needed if the number of employees exceeds 50 people. The HR person works with papers, not people. All interviews are conducted by department managers, not him. Mistakes. The only constructive reaction to a mistake is fighting for the future. Recognize the mistake. Think about how to fix it and what to do to prevent it from happening again. Fighting for the past. I wasn't wrong. No, you were wrong, or fighting for the present. Hint what should have been done are not productive. Fixing a joint is corrected by the one who made the mistake. Mistakes can be conscious. Experiment. You tried it. It didn't work. Unconscious. You tried it without assessing the risks. It didn't work. Every day the mistake should have occurred. And it did. Rake the repeated mistake is the hardest. Plan. A plan fights against indiscretion. Even if plans are not followed, Plan. It calms you down and allows you to realize who is not doing their job well. Versatility. Clear job descriptions are the domain of large corporations. In a small business, it's good when people are versatile. A salesperson goes to hand out flyers, and a manager stands behind the counter. In any results-driven company, it's good for an employee to go above and beyond the call of duty. If it's necessary for the business schedule. If the person is not abusive, let them off work when they ask for it. As for freelancing, it implies a free schedule. There is no need to be in the office, but there is no vacation. Do your amount of work, and the rest no one cares. If a salesperson abuses, and the bonus for sales is collective, the other salespeople will quickly bring him out. Motivation. People are different. There are those who work just to have something to live on. There are those who work with a soul, trying in any case to get to the point and cares about the quality of work. The former are useless to motivate. The latter are worth motivating. Smart people appreciate being treated well. Team. Gather smart people around you. They will become the locomotive of the company. An employee's bright talent can compensate for his or her shortcomings. In turn, your tolerance for the employee's shortcomings and interesting business is what you can offer to a talented team in return for an exorbitant salary. Look for talent wherever you can and find them a place in the company where they can prove themselves. Franchising. We thought we had created a well-honed business model perfect for franchisees, but we didn't take into account some pitfalls. First of all, difficulties arose with purchases, which we tried to regulate. As a result, the model of free purchases turned out to be more convenient. For the regions, we have our warehouse with good prices and a free choice. The second problem is that not everyone complies with the French book. Fortunately, there are few of them, and those who do not, as a result, come to the fact that it is always more effective to follow a proven and well-working model. Keep going. Your own business grows when you kick and stimulate yourself. No one will do it for you. Take an example from athletes. Improve your results all the time, and don't count how much others earn. Count your profits. Do not procrastinate. Take and do. And first of all, do what is most difficult. Books. Keep books in the office. Read yourself and motivate your employees to read. This is the cheapest way to learn. Sales peaks. Mosigra to some extent seasonal business, to peaks of sales, which fall on holidays, New Year's Day, March 8th, February 23rd. Such peaks should be identified as early as possible in your business for adequate business planning and accumulate sales history. Let seasonality be your friend. Business processes, make them shorter, but keep control of them. As the company grows, distribute control, otherwise decisions become harder to make, which paralyzes the entire system. People throughout the management chain should remember the mission of the company. Then everything will be fine. If employees are ready to take responsibility, trust them. Give them the right to take risks within reasonable limits. It is not necessary to include the head of each instance in the chain of command. One manager, key to the business process, is enough. At Mosigra we have a short hierarchy. Every employee can call the CEO and make a proposal. Messengers, choose the right communication channels. We prefer email to all other messengers, as it does not distract from work and can be checked when it is convenient for you. For very urgent matters, phone. We try to discuss unpleasant and difficult moments by phone. A letter may be publicized. It does not reflect emotions and may sound more rude than necessary. Evolution. A small company differs from a large corporation in that it is more exposed to the environment, which means it must evolve more intensely into what the market needs at the moment. Chapter 3. Store. Location. It should be at the intersection of human flows. In the center of Moscow, areas near those stations of the Ring subway line, which are on the Garden Ring. Here converges pedestrian traffic with automobile traffic and all types of transportation. On the outskirts of the city, the format of street retail is not suitable. Only shopping centers with good anchor tenants, located near the subway and bus hubs, are needed. How to search? First determine what you need, then drive around the neighborhood. Especially when you open your first 3 stores, you have to search with your feet. Walk around and look. Look for empty spaces or those with rental ads, and then continue your search through agents and relevant websites. More often than not, the first options viewed are trial and error, but at some point there will be scrutiny and intuitive understanding of what you need. It usually takes 1 or 2 months to find a space. If you find one sooner than that, you've probably made a mistake. Tip. Avoid informal communication with tenants. It will likely play against you. The agent should not be just an intermediary. He should stand up for your interests. How do you count traffic? Count passing cars. Take into account the speed and direction of their movement. The availability of parking spaces. Count the people in your target audience passing by your door. Do this during the day and evening, weekdays and weekends. If the store is in a courtyard, divide the flow by 16. Going up to each floor of the mall reduces the flow by half. But the most visited floor after the first floor is the floor with food outlets, food court. Ask about the flow of salespeople in neighboring stores and analyze. Cars should pass near your store at a speed not exceeding 40 km/h. Then the driver or passengers will be able to consider your sign. Premises with problems. The problems of rented premises can play into your hands, allowing you to reduce the price. You just need to understand what you have to compromise on in your case. For example, you may have to share the space with someone else. Or you may not be able to put up a sign that you can come up with a different design. That there are problems that cannot be tolerated, for example, often burst pipes and floods. Neighbors can also become a problem. Try to make friends with them. Layout. A square room is cozier than a gut. A cash register at the entrance scares away customers. Think of each shelf of the store as part of the rental space. Use it to the fullest. That's why Mosigra often has to customize shelving for the store, so there's no air on the shelves. Display. The best sales come from the center shelves. Put the best items there. Use the lower shelves as storage and the upper shelves as a display. Children are victims of advertising, so the most advertised children's products should be placed so that children can see them well and can take them from the shelf. If the display is a lot of the same product, for buyers it is a signal you must take. It's a hit. That do not make too neat pyramids of goods. People will be afraid to destroy them. A big mistake. To put unpopular goods on the best places in the hope that it will sell. From these places for the same time you can sell an order of magnitude more hits and, accordingly, much more to earn. Repairs. Order a full estimate from a professional contracting company to renovate the space, and then remove anything unnecessary from that estimate and calculate a new total. You can then approach any company knowing the amount you want to spend on a turnkey renovation and being able to justify it. Store schedule. First and foremost, it should be convenient for the customer. To understand this, stand a weak seller yourself, as we advised above. Of course, companies like Mosigra need to work during the holidays when people buy gifts for each other. As long as possible, on December 31st, one of Mosigra's outlets is sure to be open until 2100. Price tags. They should be clear, present for each product, not to create confusion. They should be easy to find. They should be signed and stamped, not cover the name of the product. If the seller forgot to change the price on the price tag, he is obliged to sell the goods at the old price. This is the law. Theft. If the seller monitors the haul and the goods, it is minimal. Small parts from demonstration goods in the hall, such as coins or figurines in games, are treated as consumables in Mosigra. Anti-theft gates in our experience are not very effective. They only increase costs and do not help when staff steal. In the course of stock-taking, detected missing items are deducted from the bonus of materially responsible sellers. Recession. In a recession, don't cut back on profit-generating expenses, such as advertising that works well, and try not to lay people off right away, but cut their hours first, or put employees on vacation during the off-season. Use the period of reduced activity to fine-tune business processes and planning. If it's really bad, close the point. It's no big deal. If the difficulties are temporary, optimize costs, reduce hours, fight for repeat sales. Use cheap promotional tools, mailing by email. Before the crisis, Mosigra slowed down the development. Why? Got rid of unreliable franchisees, optimized purchase prices and the number of goods in stock, avoiding residuals, set new conditions for suppliers. At the same time, she developed her own production and brand. Looked for ways to motivate employees without salary increases and attracted more freelancers. The rise. Preparing for the peak, Mosigra checks all communication channels, expands the call center, and the management and marketing itself goes out to the stores. Staff is recruited a month before the anticipated peak to maintain high requirements for new employees and not to take just anyone. Chapter 4. Marketing. What is it? Marketing should not be confused with advertising. Advertising works to attract a customer, while marketing is the entire chain of processes that work to retain the customer. This chain includes quality product, smart sales, and smart post-sale relationships. For example, by abusing newsletters, we will initially attract customers, but then we are likely to start annoying them. Guard your customers' trust so you don't become a one-day company. Advertising is like a pyramid scheme. There is free word-of-mouth advertising. There is cheap advertising, distribution of business cards and leaflets. There is advertising more expensive and very expensive, outdoor or television, more money, wider coverage. Your task, to collect all the dividends from each stage of the pyramid, and then raising the bar of efficiency of your business to move to the next stage, greater reach, higher bar. It is important to evaluate the invested funds so that TV advertising does not eat up the entire budget, bringing less money than invested in it. Zero moment. Today, the majority of customers make a decision not in the store in front of the showcase, and even before going to the store. Let's call it zero moment. It is at this point that you have to start fighting for the customer. That's why Mosigra has made a colorful website with detailed product descriptions, reviews, and funny stories. Stick to perfectionism, striving to make the perfect product. Stop at 80% of its effectiveness. Otherwise, you run the risk of making it either very complicated or working to the detriment of another product. It's better to do 2 projects at 80% than 1 at 100%, 160 more than 100. Be truthful with the customer. A customer didn't find a product in your store. Don't be afraid to send him to a competitor. In the end, not only the customer will win, but also you, because customers appreciate such an attitude and generously share stories of such honest actions with their friends, including social networks. And another important point in motivating our employees is that they always remember that they are selling a very good product, which means they know they are being honest with customers and doing the right thing. Look for differences. Compare yourself to your competitors and think about where and in what you can beat them. Service, location, costs, responsiveness. Evaluate your niche capacity and scalability. The importance of customer centricity. The customer is your friend. Become as convenient as possible for customers. Monitor and take into account their wishes, including in social networks. Don't be greedy for small things. For example, we at Mosigra don't charge money for our sturdy and convenient packages. If management personally stands behind the counter or delivers orders, many customer expectations will become clearer. It will become much clearer what a nose people late courier, no pre-call, sitting salesperson, pushy salesperson, loud music. Remember the importance of first contact. It's easy to lose a new customer. It's hard to get them back. Play the long game. Take care of your customers. Try to recognize your mistakes, including publicly. When addressing a client, choose the right words. It is better to write "you can test the game" rather than "we offer to test the game," because the emphasis here is on the buyer. Questionnaire. Collecting data about buyers with the help of a questionnaire. We solve several tasks at once. We collect information, form the right attitudes, and give the right information. For example, we enter an item for ticking. I have seen the site Mosigra. Are you? I will recommend the store to my friends. I like that you open boxes with games. In this way, we remind about our site and its address. Notify the customer that we open boxes with games, and also push the idea to tell about the store to a friend. Phone. The phone number on the website should be prominent and clickable from a cell phone screen. Be sure to include next to the phone number the mode of operation of the call center, the city code for non-residents, and that the call is free for the caller. Honest discounts and rounding. We consider a discount worthy of being marked to the crossed-out price on the price tag to be more than 50 rubles. And we write next to the price tag how much the customer saves. I save 80 rubles. In Mosigra, always round prices down to 10 rubles, not for 175, but for 170 rubles. This makes it easier to give change and is more pleasant for customers. In Mosigra, no prices ending in 999. Such prices are not quite honest. The amount of 3,999 is perceived as 3,000 with something, not as 4,000 without a ruble. Even if you catch someone on this, you will show disrespect to the customer. Emphasize self-talk, which is considered the most effective because it triggers internal dialogue. Unreasonable discounts. Discounts that are too large or too frequent cause customers to question the validity of your regular prices. Customers become addicted to sales and stop buying at other times. Ready-made modules, a button to register for an event, a chat with an operator on the website. This product is commonly purchased with prompt, and similar modules are easy to build. And make customer interactions more effective. Promises. Promise less than you can give. If you give more, you will be pleasantly surprised. Online store. A colorful site is needed also because the more people will stay in the online store, the higher the probability of purchase. The same rule works in offline stores. Prices in an online store may differ from ordinary stores to a lesser extent because it has fewer costs, though we believe that a person will not be very pleased to find out after the purchase that he could have bought the same product cheaper. Therefore, we prefer to set the same prices everywhere, and at the expense of the difference to make free shipping from a certain amount of the check. Negotiation. Learn the art of negotiation with the help of books, trainings, board games. Otherwise you will lose to those who own this art. But be warned, not every successful negotiation ends with an agreement between the parties. Sometimes the most successful outcome is to stop negotiations as soon as possible, or to refuse the proposed terms. Base your decision on numbers, not generalities. Notice the unprofessionalism of potential partners, illiteracy, sloppiness, poor service. If they behave this way at the negotiation stage, it will only get worse. Offer. A more successful model of business communication is not to ask, but to offer. If you ask, you get conditions, favors, or rejections. If you offer, you find yourself in a much more favorable position. During the crisis, Mosigra offered the shopping center to lower the rent, in exchange for the company to organize game nights at the food courts. The parties came to an agreement. Thus Mosigra got the coveted access to food courts and a discount. At the same time, experiments. Treat business like science. Propose a hypothesis, test it with an experiment, get data, draw conclusions. Spend on experiments exactly as much as you are willing to lose in case of failure. We usually try things in a minimal format first. If the experiment was successful, we invest more. Manufacturers and retail. They are constantly in confrontation and dependent on each other at the same time. In order for retailers not to depend too much on manufacturers, they need to develop their own brands, and do not miss the opportunity to share advertising costs with the manufacturer. You are advertising his product. Selling games, there are their own rules. In the first circulation, everything decides the effectiveness of the box. After the owners of the game gather friends and played, friends will buy the same game if they like the mechanics. Not many people read reviews, but playtests are a very effective sales lever. Simplicity. Do not strive for trickery. Simplicity often works better. If you can lay out simpler, write clearer, respond more directly, do not complicate, count and calculate. Marketing is all about numbers. Even before the start of the project, as accurately as possible calculate the basic cost of the product. Costs, final price, estimate the audience and conversion rate. Don't trust surveys, better use pilot projects or crowdfunding. Post-sales call. It is inherent in buyers to doubt the correctness of the purchase. We relieve this post-sale shock with a return guarantee and, in some cases, a call asking if they like the game and need help with the rules. People appreciate this, just as they appreciate the fact that we don't impose anything on them at that moment. And we get loyal customers and information about the reaction to our product. Press release. Write press releases in normal official language, structure, and to the point. Format them correctly. Do not make mistakes. Do not abuse large print and exclamation marks. Do not capitalize you. Supplement the text with photos of the product next to people. It works well. Cool videos, such as Mosigra trailers for games, work even better. A photo of a person holding a tool at work has a bigger effect than just a picture of the tool. PR. Make a list of media outlets and look for a contact person for your topic in each publication. Send out a release and call journalists. When you are offered to advertise, keep in mind that if you accept, the journalists of that media outlet will no longer talk to you for free. The only exception is when a publication has a burning advertising strip. Then you dictate the terms. And we offer barter in such cases. As for working with social networks, do not replace actions with chatter. First things first, then they will write about you. Focus. Marketing should be focused on the product. It sounds obvious, But very often the main thing is forgotten behind the tinsel. There are no universal tips and rules. Look for a rational grain in other people's experience that you can apply to your business. Conclusion: adapt any advice to yourself and your business, not taking it literally, but listening to the experience of colleagues who have already passed the stages of business development that you may still have to face. First, startup. Do not evade taxes, but choose the best scheme. Avoid debts and investments. Competently divide the shares. Starting a business with a friend. Really assess his competence and negotiate the details of cooperation. Look for a good accountant and be honest with your chief accountant. Determine the criteria of your success and evaluate it. Make a competent financial model and look at your income realistically. Your choice is to get money through pleasure or vice versa. Our principle is to do what makes us happy. Second, management. Be a competent and responsible manager. Subordinates should be moderately proactive, but follow a leader who sees the big picture. Trust and verify. Work with professionals or nurture them yourself. Fire those who fail as quickly as possible, but part ways fairly. If an employee made a mistake, let him, her correct the mistake and think how to avoid it in the future. Hire only people who are close in spirit and when there is a real need. In negotiations, bargain and make contracts as detailed as possible. Don't ask, but offer. Make business processes shorter. Plan, even if the plans don't always materialize. Don't stop, evolve. Always strive forward. Third, store. Choose a place for the store at the intersection of human flows, pedestrian and automobile. If possible, first bypass the search area yourself. When planning the store, try to make useful every centimeter. Competently plan the display of goods. Make the schedule of the store as convenient as possible for customers. Avoid confusing price tags. The best prevention of theft is not special gates, but a salesperson who monitors the hall and the goods. In times of recession and crisis, don't cut back on profit-generating expenses, such as effective advertising. And don't start laying people off right away. First, reduce employee hours, fight for repeat sales, and postpone expansion. Use this period to fine-tune business processes and planning. For periods of upswing in sales, prepare in advance, expand staff. Check communication channels. Fourth, marketing. Marketing is the entire chain of processes that work to retain the customer. Take care of the trust of your customers so as not to become a one-day company. Start fighting for the customer even before he comes to the store. For example, develop a website and online store. Be as customer-oriented and honest with customers as possible. Compare yourself with your competitors and develop your advantages. Promise less than you can deliver and pleasantly surprise by doing more. Experiment, but carefully. Always pay attention to numbers, not words. Make your press materials clear, interesting and logical, and build the right relationship with the press. And remember that the main thing is the product. Focus on it. Thank you all for listening to the end. If you liked it, don't forget to rate and subscribe to the channel. You can buy the full version of the book at the link in the description.